Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Journey to Happiness. So, today we are going to dive into a topic that every single one of us has experienced, and that topic is fear. Because I think fear can feel so overwhelming. I don't think, I guess I know. But the thing is, when we really understand what it's doing to us physically, mentally, and spiritually, we can learn to shift our relationship with it. And that's what I want to explore with you all today. So let's start by just talking about what is fear, okay? Sorry, I just noticed I had this like piece of hair sticking out. So what is fear? Well, fear at its core is simply the body's alarm system. It's our nervous system's way of saying that something isn't right, something feels off, and I need to get ready to protect myself. It's built into us for survival. When you think back to ancient times, back to medieval times, whatever, if we saw a predator in the wild, then the instant surge of fear could mean the difference between life and death. So just think of fear as your body's alarm system. That's the first step here about when it comes to like reframing your relationship with fear and what exactly fear is. So here's the thing though. In our modern world today, most of the things that we fear are actual threats to survival. It's situations such as losing a relationship, leaving a toxic relationship, fear of public speaking, fear of stepping into our purpose, fear of losing a job, fear of not having money to survive, all of the things that we are afraid of. But the thing is, those situations aren't normally a threat to our survival, but they trigger the same survival response, even though we aren't actually in danger. So, what does this do to the body? Because that's a big piece of this. It causes the body to go into it's like a fear within the body, right? So it causes us to go into fight, flight, or freeze mode. When fear shows up, it activates the nervous system into these three things. So I'm going to explain a little bit of those. You probably already understand what fight, flight, or freeze is because it is talked about quite often. But just in case, let's give you a refresher. Fight is when your body gears up with adrenaline. It's your muscles are tensing, your heart is racing, and you're ready to battle, right? You need to fight to survive. Flight, you feel the urge to run. You just want to run, escape, anxious. You might feel anxious or like you can't sit still. And then freeze. Of course, your body's just going to shut down. You're going to become numb. You're going to just kind of avoid everything. All of these are natural. They're automatic survival mechanisms. But the body doesn't know the difference between a lion chasing you or stressing about your finances or relationships. It's going to react the same way. But I don't know about you guys, but for me, like every time I've had fear around something, it never usually like happens, right? And if it does, it's not hurting me, right? It's not like hurting my survival. Having a fear of a relationship ending, let's just use that one. Yeah, it could happen, right? But are you going to die? No, you're not going to die. You might be sad. You're not going to die though. Money, I think money is sometimes a hard one. I think we all have a lot of fear around money. And why some could argue that, well, it is a threat to your survival because if you don't have money, then, you can't eat and can't pay your bills and etc. However, I don't know about you guys, but for me, like I have had lots of fear around money. And I can honestly say I've been close. I've been close to situations where I didn't know how I was going to survive or pay bills or anything, but it's always showed up. The money's always came, right? So most of the time, these fears that we have are unfounded. They don't happen anyway. We're just afraid that they're going to happen. And it's just yeah, we're just afraid. And if they do happen, again, we're not going to die, okay? So why do we have fear? Like what is the whole purpose of it being here? Because I think we all have this fear. We all struggle with having fear. And you might not call it fear. You might just call it anxiety, or you might just call it whatever word you want to use. But it usually all stems from fear. It's some type of fear. It could be fear of the unknown. It could be fear of someone abandoning you. It could be fear of losing a job, losing a house, all of those things. Um, it's always stemming from fear. Okay, so do we have fear? What's the purpose here? Well, again, it's here to protect us. It's not our enemy. It's a messenger. That's all it is. Fear is a messenger to you. It's saying to pay attention. Something feels unsafe. But here's the catch. The subconscious mind is a little slow on its programming sometimes. So that means we often fear things that aren't truly dangerous. The things that we fear are there because it's reminding us of the old wounds that we have, the old traumas, or the limiting beliefs that we pick up along the way. So while fear can keep us safe, if there's a bear chasing you, a lion chasing you, like somebody, axe murderer chasing you, yeah, it can keep you safe. But again, are those situations really going to happen? Probably not. So what does fear really do? It can also keep us small if we let it run the show. It can keep us stuck if we let it run the show. So, as somebody who is very spiritual, I try to look at things from the spiritual perspective, right? So, let's zoom out a little bit. Let's zoom out and talk more about this thing we call fear. So, spiritually speaking, fear is the opposite of love. So, love expands and fear contracts us. Fear keeps us locked in an illusion that we are separate from God, from Source, from the infinite intelligence that created us. When we're afraid, we're living from the ego brain, the human brain that was trying to fight to run the show. But we're not living from our true essence. The part of us that believe, when it comes to the ego, that's the part of us that believes we're alone, we're limited, we're powerless, right? But we're never alone, okay? We always have this infinite intelligence all around us. We are spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. I say this all the time. And when we remember that, the fear loses its grip, the ego loses its grip. And that's why so many of the spiritual teachings out there tell us to not be afraid because danger really doesn't exist. Because fear disconnects us from our true essence. Again, I'll say it again and again and again. Because faith brings us back into alignment. So having faith is again the opposite of fear, right? And we all need to have faith instead of fear. And I know this sounds easier said than done, but it's really not. Not when you understand it. Not when you understand what fear is doing to your body. Not when you understand that you are an infinite, intelligent being that is from the one and only creator, God or source, whatever you want to call this infinite like light that is around us, right? And there was a quote I heard one time. It might have been from A Course in Miracles. I can't quite remember. But it said, if you knew who walked beside you, you would never feel afraid again. Spiritually is what I mean. If you knew the spiritual beings that were all around you, the angels that God sent here to help you, you just can't see them, but they're all around you, you would never be afraid because there's no reason to be afraid. So, what if we flip the script here? What if we flip the script on fear? What if instead of resisting fear, we saw it as a signal, a doorway, an invitation to lean deeper into your faith? Because when we look back on our lives, how many of the things we feared actually happened, right? Did they actually happen? And if they did happen, what was the result of that, right? Did you die? Well, if you're listening to this, no, you didn't. And when you think about the things that you feared, whether they happened or didn't happen, how often can you look back on that and think about the times that you were afraid and you came out stronger, wiser, and more resilient than before? Fear is loud, but love is stronger. So that's the message here. You always, when you have challenges and you have these fears come up and you can get through them, then you look on the other side and you realize that you are so much stronger. We all have been talking a lot about June and July and the struggles that we all went through over the summer, and I'm really hoping you're feeling better now. I know I am. But, you know, I look back on that time now and I remember how afraid I was, afraid I couldn't pay my bills, afraid I wasn't going to find a job, afraid of everything, basically everything. The anxiety was just, I was riddled with it. Using all the tools that I was trying to use that I have in my back pocket. And I think now, first of all, none of those fears came true. Like, I found a job, paying my bills. Everything turned out fine. And I realized how much stronger I am and how much the universe was guiding me the whole time and uh, how it's exactly what I needed, even though I didn't know I needed it. So, just always remember that piece. I've been talking about this a lot lately, and I'm going to keep talking about it. That, the challenges and the fears that happen to us are oftentimes just a blessing in disguise. So, back to talking about fear. Here's the spiritual truth, if you want to know it. Nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. So, in the eyes of love, fear has no power over you. No power. So, again, I know this is easier said than done. But it's really not. It's actually pretty simple when you go down the spiritual path. If you think about it from a spiritual perspective, so this is what I want you to do. The next time fear creeps up, whether it's being afraid of losing a job, a relationship ending, or leaving a toxic relationship. I feel like those are big fears that people have, or any fear at all, fear of financial stuff, fear of anything, right? The next time you start to feel your body tense with anxiety, ask yourself, like, what am I afraid of? Because oftentimes anxiety is rooted because we are afraid. We have anxiety because we're fearful. And oftentimes, again, it goes back to like the wounds that we picked up along the way, the limiting beliefs. We become very scared to do anything because of those limiting beliefs and those childhood traumas and all of the things that we talk about on this podcast. So the next time that fear creeps up, and you might not recognize it as fear, it might just feel like tension in your body. It might just feel like, stress or anxiety. I want you to ask yourself, I want you to pause and take a breath and say, what am I afraid of? Literally ask yourself that. You can write it down if you want. What am I afraid of? Okay. So if this fear happens, what's the worst thing that's going to happen to me? And it might be helpful to write this stuff down because you can kind of write it down and read it back and realize like, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen to me? Okay, is that really, am I going to die from this? Probably not. Okay. Start really journal that out. What is the worst thing that could happen? If it happens, what's the consequence of that happening? And then I also want you to practice just taking deep breaths. This will regulate, because again, this is a nervous system response. It's your body's alarm system response, which is your nervous system response. So you have to calm the nervous system. And you might even need to do this before you start writing things down and asking yourself what you're afraid of. It just depends on where your anxiety level is. But I also want you to take some deep breaths. And I want you to take these deep breaths by taking in a really deep breath and counting to four. So you take in four counts, 1, 2, 3, 4, as you're breathing in slowly. I want you to hold at the top. So then you're going to hold for 4 counts, and then you're going to exhale for 6 counts. This is a really, really powerful exercise to calm your nervous system, because when your nervous system gets activated and you're in this like fight, flight, or freeze mode, and you're anxious and you're fearful, and your mind is going all over the place because your ego is trying to take control and it won't let anything else happen. A lot of times, to even get that to stop, you have to figure out a way to calm the nervous system. So my suggestion again is the deep breathings, the in for 4 count, hold for 4 count, and then breathe out for 6 counts, and do this as many times as it takes. You will feel your nervous system start to calm down. There's also other methods out there, which I've talked about before. I'm not going to go into all of those right now. Another one is emotional freedom technique tapping that can actually cause help you deal with your fear or any anxiety that's happening. And again, I do have a video on that that I probably will put out at some point if people want it, just to kind of walk you through what tapping is, because it can be really powerful too. But for now, again, just practice those deep breaths and asking yourself, what are you afraid of? And what's the worst thing that's going to happen if this thing happens to you? Okay? We need to change our relationship with fear because again, it's the body's alarm system, but we have to understand that there's nothing that's going to actually hurt us, and fear is just separating us from source, from the infinite intelligence that is really all around us, and it's separating us from love. And I think sometimes, when we get fearful, the only thing we can do is lean into faith. We have to lean in using the prayer and relying on God and relying on the angels that He sent here to help us, or you can call them spirit guides, because they're all around us and they're always here to help us. And we can't let fear run the show anymore because it separates us, and that's something we don't want. So the next time fear shows up, just pause and breathe and remind yourself that this is your nervous system trying to protect you. Thank it and honor it. See, I thank you, I honor you, and then choose love instead. Choose faith instead. Because you, my friend, were not created to live in fear. You were created to live in freedom, expansion, and trust. So I am so glad that you tuned in to this episode today. I hope it resonated with you. If it did, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And remember, you are safe and you are guided and you are never, ever alone. So again, if this resonated with you, please share it with somebody else who might need to hear it. And please leave me a review. They really help the algorithm. They really help the algorithm pick this up, and hopefully more people can find this because I think people are searching for others who are like them or who others who have experienced things like they have and who are not afraid to talk about it. And I feel like people need to know they're not alone. And so that is my whole goal of these episodes is to have a conversation with you and to let you know that you're not alone and to just share my journey that I have been on and the things that I've learned. And that's all I can do. And so I hope to reach the people that I'm meant to reach. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. As always, you can connect with me on Facebook. You can always message me there. I would love to hear from you. So until next time, just remember I love you so freaking much. Okay? I hope you have a beautiful day. I will see you next week. Bye bye for now. Mwah.